Hello, Module 12. We're going to talk about tort liability. Our first slide, I want to define tort, and I used the videos that we had from Animate Educate. A tort would be suing someone for doing something that causes damage. That harm could be the result of doing or not doing something, and it could be the intended or unintended consequences of emotional damage, harm, or injury as a consequence of acting or not acting. Those things that you couldn't really press charges for. Damages, again, as cited in the video, would be just basic damages, making someone whole, maybe repairing property or something like that. Nominal damages, oftentimes in court, comes out to be finding the guilty $1 or something like that, or punitive. And that takes in the emotional suffering, pain, all that kind of thing. And it gets complicated as to how and what degree fault is found. Sometimes all members are just found 100% guilty so that the damages are collected. We also need very quickly to note we're going to be talking about negligence, which is avoidable mistakes that are made, things that didn't have to happen. Gross negligence involves acting recklessly with foreseen harm. Things that you knew could cause problems. And a breach of duty is simply when professionals, educators in our case, aren't doing their jobs. We have an obligation to the students. We're not keeping up that obligation. That could be in maybe directing students through an activity. That could be supervision in a playground or in the hallway. Any number of other opportunities probably happen to us all 50 times a day. Our obligation to guard or look after the students. The laws note that we have a special relationship with students as educators. We operate in local parentis, at least in K-12, in place of the parents. We need to protect them from foreseeable harm, preventing accidents, if you will. Failing to act, standing by and watching some type of harmful incident could be breach of duty. Acting in an unprofessional way that broke that obligation, or not acting in a professional manner so as to cause harm. Those are things that we're liable for. And perhaps our districts and schools are as well, depending on the situation. Now, the first case that I would look at, defamation to harm, the harm caused was professional damage. Talking about a middle school phy ed teacher accused by a couple of girls in class of inappropriate behavior, inappropriate touching students, accused of peering into the locker rooms, etc., and so forth. And as it happens, the teacher, John Fischler, was able to prove that the allegations were false, and also they were based in malice. I believe, as I read the case there at the link, one of the students, I should note their parents also filed the complaint and promoted this. So one of the parties that had accused him of this behavior admitted that it was done maliciously. California has a defamation per se law. I put that in here as well. And that means that defamation that attacks one's character or one's professional abilities is presumed to be harmful on its face. At Gateway Technical College, if we had a problem of this sort, or a complaint or an accusation, a big distinction I found in this module is we're dealing with 18 and up. We're dealing with adults. We treat people like adults. We expect that they're going to respond that way. They have a code of conduct. We also have a policy manual, which I cite in the references. And it is the student that is asked to report and lodge a complaint, and there's steps to do so. Upon a complaint, the dean will launch an immediate investigation with human resources. If applicable, under the Sexual Harassment Title IX laws and the Violence Against Women Act, If the complaint is merited, the faculty found guilty, removed from the classroom, prosecuted criminally if applied. You're going to hear me fall into law enforcement quite a bit because as we're dealing with people over 18, starting with trespassing once they're told to leave, there's any number of applicable laws. The instructor is likely not to be renewed. Now, we get into negligence, the idea that this didn't have to happen, something avoidable occurred. Breach of duty causing harm is the issue in my next case. And this is the Emily Olson case. And this took place, a young lady took her own life. Obvious harm there. Her mother sued the school district for failure to prevent bullying by the teacher. The teacher stood by and did very little over time while her daughter was victimized. Didn't intend for harm, but intended or otherwise. This is breach of duty, and they were found negligent. At Gateway Technical College, as before, upon the complaint, the dean would investigate the complaint. HR would immediately become involved, certainly depending upon exactly the circumstances, the laws I noted, kind of important. Review of all ticketed complaints over a long-term situation like that would be covered. What was known or suspected from the tickets would be reviewed. We are obligated to write those tickets, those care team reports for such a situation. Failure to do so would be a breach of duty as well. Likely removal from college of the if you found harassment or some type of bullying of a nature like that. Non-renewal of an instructor if they simply couldn't maintain a learning environment that was safe and equitable to everyone. Verbally assaulting, bullying, and liability. I have a sad case here out of Chicago. It's an ongoing investigation, as a matter of fact. You can look at this. It's June of 2019, where a lawsuit alleges chronic bullying by a special education teacher and a dean of students in a public school in Chicago. The chronic bullying resulted in the attempted suicide of an 11-year-old student. I believe the young man is still in the hospital and has some extremely long-term neurological injuries. I'm not exactly sure, as I read it as of a month ago, if it's certain that he will survive. And this is obviously a breach of duty, actively and intentionally causing harm to a student. It leaves the teachers, the school, and the school district open for a lawsuit. They're all liable. It is going through actually the Capitol and the Board of Education for the state. And it's nobody's going to win on this particular case. At Gateway Technical College, as I've mentioned, applicable harassment, sexual abuse types of legislation. I will note that we have a zero tolerance policy towards sexual assault, sexual harassment within our Title IX guidelines provided in our policy, also our student handbook. If proven, witnessed, recorded as it should be, this is what our investigators do, of which we have, I think, 3 or 4, and they're very good. It's a confidential investigation. This would immediately go to criminal prosecution when we're dealing again with adults and things of that sort. For those of us that over-apologize, admitting blame is still cause for negligence. The case I have here is Johnson & Johnson versus the School District of Millard. This was, you can picture this, a first grade music class. The lesson that the teacher has for the kids is teaching them the London Bridge song, and they all kind of walk in a line and go through the bridge, and the bridge falls down, all that kind of stuff. Once the teacher directs the first graders, tells them what to do, lines them up, starts the music. The first little boy's name is Johnson. He goes through, and differing accounts, it gets a little bit rough, and Mr. Johnson winds up hitting his head on a bookshelf, which needs 50 stitches to close and has some prolonged recovery issues. The reason I wanted to cite this is Johnson & Johnson, when a 6-year-old would be the lodging the complaint, they would do so with their parents. So both he and his mother would be the party that's suing the school district. The teacher acknowledges her back was turned. She was at the board for a quick second writing something. When she was done talking, she admits she was present for the injury, and she admits she did not see the boy hit his head. She didn't supervise. The accuracy of the little boy's description of what happened was in question and not a determining factor. He said this went on for 3 minutes. If you can kind of hum the song in your head, it goes about 12 seconds. He said he was in the air for about 10 seconds. That's not really physically possible, nor is it important for this matter. Gateway. A situation like this certainly depends upon the harm. Adults would require less guidance, as noted in our readings. So I would imagine a situation where a student in a welding class or in a machining class could possibly pick up an injury in the course of coursework without supervision. The dean and the provost would read the complaints, and as an instructor, if there's an injury in my lab or in my classroom, I would need to record that immediately and contact the security department immediately, make sure that everybody has the treatment they need. The dean and the provost would meet and examine the recordings on both sides, the tickets. The student complaint process can be serious enough to dismiss faculty if it's merited. In those hearings, faculty advisors sit in. I actually am one. I've only once on an academic appeal needed to. My role is simply to help the student become prepared as they go in. It's not to serve as counsel or speak on behalf of the student or the college for that matter, but just to follow a procedure. If needed, that would be followed. Parents can sue the district with small children as well. Sometimes school districts are guilty of some of the infractions. This is our final case, Stevens versus the Des Moines School District. The plaintiff in the school said the school district did not do enough to protect their 15-year-old from physical assault. They claimed that their son should have been warned of the presence of another student who had behavioral problems, and that the other student that attacked their son was a threat. The district was found guilty of not providing for student safety in the hallways and passing time between classes. But the district was not liable for unforeseen nature of events. They couldn't have predicted a fight. These were not two students that knew each other. There was a racial slur from the victim. How much that mitigated things. At Gateway, campus security and law enforcement, if we have an assault of this kind, this becomes a law enforcement issue immediately. And it would be treated that way. Charges would be pressed, restraining orders, the whole bit. Here are my references for this presentation, and thank you so much.